bit grim, really, isn't it? All this crusades and heresy hunting. Call for the English pontiff. Back in Rome, Eugenius had other problems, all problems singular, in the form of an agitator and revolutionary called Arnold of Brescia, 1100 to 1155. Arnold was an Augustinian monk. The Augustinians took their name from Augustine of Hippo. They deliberately lived and worked in cities and towns. They were monks for the people, and their accessibility made them very popular and valued by ordinary lay worshippers. Arnold had studied under Peter Abelard. Not literally, obviously. That position had been reserved by Eloise. Arnold had come to detest the worldly power of the church. He did not mince his words. The cardinals were full of pride, avarice, hypocrisy, and shame. The Pope himself was a man of blood who maintained his authority by fire and sword, a tormentor of churches and oppressor of the innocent, whose only actions were for the gratification of his lust and for the emptying of other men's coffers, in order that his own might be filled. Go on, Arnold, tell us what you really think. In the towns and cities of Europe, there was a steadily growing class of tradesmen and labourers and artisans who simply could not understand what the wealthy, luxury-loving political animals of the church had in common with Jesus and his fishermen friends. These were not stupid people. They made things, and many of them became followers of Arnold. Arnold was no saint. Later on he seems to have sanctioned violence, but he did reflect the times. Bernard, of course, hated him. At the same synod where Bernard had Abelard condemned, Arnold was condemned as well. But while Abelard submitted to his rebuke and kept his head down, Arnold didn't. When he was expelled from France, he went straight to Rome. He arrived to find a city in turmoil. Some agitators within the city had attacked the papal guards and established a republic. Arnold joined them and soon rose to leadership. And the Roman populace loved him. Such was his popularity in the city that Eugenius offered to reverse the excommunication as long as Arnold was really, really sorry. But Arnold wasn't sorry. And such was the strength of opposition that it was the Pope who had to lead the city. Eugenius died before he could solve the Arnold problem. It was left to one of his successors, the first and only English Pope, Hadrian IV, nay, Nicholas Breakspear, from St. Albans. Other boys ran away to join the circus, and Nicholas ran away as a boy to join the monastery. He was refused admission at St. Albans, so he went to France. After some time in Rome, he went and reorganized the church in Scandinavia. Then he returned to Rome, presumably to thaw out and become Pope. Hadrian took action. First, he had to do something about the unrest in Rome. So he went big. It was no use excommunicating Arnold. That's already been done. Hadrian excommunicated the entire city. In 1155, he closed all the churches in Rome. They could only open for the baptism of infants and the absolution of the dying. Otherwise, nothing. Nada. Locked down. Ooh, there's a word before its time. It was a papal curfew. There were bodies piling up. Easter was approaching. The Romans were beaten. Hadrian regained the city with the aid of a new emperor, Frederick Barbarossa. Frederick was tall, powerful, charismatic, with a steely determination to restore the empire to the glory days of Charlemagne, and a big ginger beard. Barbarossa is Italian for red beard. In Germany, he was known as Kaiser Rotbart, Rotbart being German for red beard. Frederick had come to Rome to be crowned, and Hadrian used him to mop up any resistance. Arnold was captured by the imperial troops and found guilty of treason. He walked calmly to the scaffold and was hanged. His executioners were apparently in tears. His body was cut down and burned to ensure that no relics remained, and the ashes were scattered in the Tiber. He was not accused of heresy. Heresy was not at this time a capital offence. But all that was going to change. Illegal immigrants. In May 1163, a church council in Tours addressed a damnable heresy that has spread throughout a number of French provinces. Like a biological infection, it was undermining the vineyard of the Lord. The council ordered that heretics and their followers should be expelled from the community, that no one should trade with them, that their goods should be confiscated. They should be hunted out of their lairs and imprisoned. Heresy had been around a long time. Civil powers had been invoked, albeit sporadically. A few had been executed. But this was taking things up a notch. Now, both the heretics and their followers were to be targeted, and the hunt was to be proactive. No more waiting for heresy to show itself. Search and destroy. Welcome to the War on Heresy. I haven't cited sources in this book for reasons of readability, space, and applied laziness, but this phrase and much of the material on the 12th century heretics comes from R.I. Moore's brilliant seminal book, The War on Heresy. The council had been held under the patronage of King Henry II of England and also the Duke of Aquitaine. 2 years later, he had the opportunity to demonstrate his orthodoxy when some Germans were found wandering around in Worcestershire. When questioned, they exhibited signs that they had been infected with heresy. They claimed to be Christians who believed in the apostolic teaching, but they attacked holy baptism, communion, and matrimony, and wickedly dared to belittle the Catholic unity which was fostered by these divine aids. They were tried in Oxford over New Year 1165-66. King Henry II took charge of the hearing himself. In accordance with the stipulations of the council and a new royal ordinance declared by Henry himself, the poor Germans were stripped of their clothing and driven out into the snow. According to a later report from a monk, nobody showed the slightest mercy towards them, and they died in misery. And as they went to their fate, they chanted, "Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven."